Hi, my name is Thayer Period, and here's how I remade the beat to 12 Stout Street by RX Papi, originally produced by Good. So this one isn't super complex, but I did some weird stuff, so it's not really going to sound right till the end. So the first thing I did was lay down these piano chords, transcribed by Ladoni, shout out Ladoni. So I am just using the Grandeur, which is just a piano library in Contact that I have. Just a pretty basic piano though. But as you can tell, that is not how the piano sounds in my remake or the original. So this is what I did. I took this piano clip and then I consolidated it down to audio. Then I pitched that down an octave. I also layered that with like another duplicate of the same thing pretty much. It is just another render of that piano. Also pitched down an octave just to make it a little thicker. And essentially my logic behind that is you can hear in the original, the piano sounds almost kind of like weird and glassy. And I know that when you pitch down the piano an octave like that, you get this kind of weird tone to it that you can't really get by just playing it low. Like it has to be a process of artificially pitching down your already played notes. So I just did that. I didn't show it in the original though because I thought it'd be kind of too much to fit into a really short video. But then for effects, I didn't do anything super crazy. Just ran that through an OTT on 21%, cutting our mids and our lows, boosting our highs a bit. Then I just added a transient shaper to reduce our attacks just a little bit to make it a little softer because it is a pretty like harsh percussive piano sound. And I also lowered our sustain 13%. Then, you know, I wanted to give it a vintagey sound because the original sounds very like dusty and old. So I just threw an RC20 on it with the vinyl 1 preset and kind of tweaked our wobble and distortion amount just to kind of give it a kind of more old-timey sound, like a sampled piano. Then I just did some EQing to boost our high end just to make it a little more present and then kind of cut some of the mids because I found those frequencies were a little muddy. Then I just finished it off with a pretty basic delay. And yeah, that is our piano. The next thing I added was this bass. Huge shocker, I made this in Serum, and it is pretty similar to a lot of the other like analog-y basses I have made. Here's how it sounds with no effects. Essentially what we got going on here is just two saw waves. One is pitched down an octave lower than the other. And then our second oscillator, the one that is pitched down, is also being detuned 13 cents. So essentially it is just slightly out of pitch with our oscillator A, and that creates a kind of like warbly, like hazy sound. I'll kind of show you what happens as I move the fine pitch around on that and the effect it creates. So here's 0. So as you can hear, 13 is kind of in that sweet spot where it is starting to make it a little wider, a little more wobbly, but it is not like super, doesn't sound like it's clashing, you know. Then I just ran both of those through a low pass filter with a decent bit of resonance and our drive effect cranked up to make it a little thicker. And I'm using our envelope one to control the cutoff of this just to give it a bit of a like plucky motion, just so it has some movement and is not so stagnant. Then for our voicing, we just have our mono legato and portamento enabled just to make it glide around. And then for effects, I started by running it through a pretty hefty tube distortion just to boost it again. Then I just did some EQing to clean it up, boosted our low end and cut our high end with a resonant high cut. Then I added a chorus for some additional width with our mix around 26%. And finished it off by running it through a compressor, not actually on multiband this time. The next thing I added was this pad. Again, I made this in Serum, and here's how it sounds with no effects. Almost similar to the bass, honestly, we have two saw waves. One is pitched up an octave compared to the first one. Our oscillator B is pitched up an octave compared to our oscillator A. And then we have a fat amount of unison on both of our oscillators, just again to introduce some width. We have our detune turned down a little bit on both of our oscillators. Then we are using our velocity controls to control the level of both of them, just so I could manually turn down some of the notes in the piano roll. And then we are using our LFO1 to control the fine pitch of both of our oscillators to give them a little bit of like a warbly analog sound. Slowly just moving back and forth to add a little bit of character. Then we are just running both of those through a low pass filter. We have our cutoff being modulated by our envelope 1 and then a decent amount of resonance and drive and fat. And for effects, I just started by adding an EQ and cutting our low end and our high end. Then I added a chorus with the mix cranked all the way up to 100%, but I made sure to take our low pass filter off so that we were not losing any of those nice high frequencies that we wanted to keep. Then I just ran it through a basic delay. Then a decent amount of this is mixer effects. I started by adding just a micro shift, which is again making it just super wide. Micro shift is a very good stereo shifter, really highly recommend. Then I just ran it through another EQ, and finally I just added a pretty basic delay just to again give it slightly more atmosphere. Last thing I added was the drums. Actually sampled this click from the outro of the song because there's a section where it's like isolated, so I just did that. And then for our snare, I actually made this in Serum because it just sounded like a kind of like a filtered noise clap snare thing. We have both our oscillator A and B off, but our noise oscillator is on. We just have our noise oscillator with this air can 1 sound, and then we're just running that through a high pass filter. Then we just have a very plucky shape for our envelope 1. And for effects, I just kind of boosted around 3K just to give it a little more smack, ran it through a compressor, and then a reverb just for some spaciousness. Then I did the final step that I talked about in the short video. I rendered all that down to audio, got that here, and then pitched it up 47 cents to match the pitch of the original because for whatever reason, the original beat is like pitched between 2 keys. Maybe it's the samples they used. I'm not 100% sure. Creative decision, maybe. I don't know. But that was the only way to not have people being like, oh, it's not pitched right. It's out of tune. So yeah. If you want access to the Serum presets from this remake or any of my other remakes, which there are almost 200 of now, you can get access to all that on my Patreon at patreon.com/prod3period. There's currently almost 500 Serum presets on there for $4. It's a great way to get some new sounds if you are looking for that kind of thing, and also the best way to support me and help me keep making these videos. Also, there are one-shot versions of all those Serum presets and the project files and samples and everything from all that too. So yeah, I hope this was educational and interesting and informative, and I will catch you next time. Peace!